Well, CBS News released a new poll just this morning on the Arizona Senate race.
Yeah, and this poll reveals Mark Kelly has a slight edge over Blake Masters at this point. According to the CBS New Battleground Tracker, Kelly leads the poll with 51% compared to Masters right behind him at 48%. CBS News says two key races or subjects are driving the Senate race, and that would be abortion and immigration. So that poll just out after a group of Arizona Republican women came out in support of Democrat Mark Kelly, calling Blake Masters extreme.
So the women held a news conference criticizing Masters' stance on abortion and his public comments, casting doubt on the legitimacy of the 2020 election. Among the speakers, former Republican State Senator Heather Carter, who expressed her concern about Blake Masters' past comments in support of a national abortion ban.
Even possibly more scary is Blake Masters wants to take this type of a prohibition nationally. At the end of the day, criminalizing doctors for providing care to women at the time when they need it the most is not what we need in Arizona, and we sure do not need this in the United States.
So we reached out to the Masters campaign and they sent us this statement. They called Kelly's position on abortion radical, saying, quote, Mark Kelly has supported abortion up until the moment of birth, a radical position shared by the likes of AOC, Elizabeth Warren, and Bernie Sanders. There are new developments on Arizona's controversial abortion ban.
Yeah, doctors filed a new lawsuit asking a court to allow abortions through 15 weeks of pregnancy. So this new lawsuit asks the court to clarify doctors' obligations because of Arizona's multiple overlapping abortion laws. Attorney General Mark Brnovich says the state's older law, written back in the 1800s, which bans most abortions, is the law of the land in Arizona. So we asked him about whether or not he would enforce it.
The county attorneys have primary jurisdiction when it comes to enforcing abortion cases. And obviously, every case is unique. Every facts and circumstances are different. So I don't think any prosecutor worth their salt anywhere, whether they're a county attorney or a future attorney general, is going to make a commitment to prosecute this type of case or that type of case. But clearly, no matter what the law is, there is there's no provision in the statute anywhere that penalizes or criminalizes a woman for having an abortion.
So Planned Parenthood is appealing in court, and some local clinics are helping Arizona women coordinate with providers across the state lines over in California.